Okay, so you've got that fire in your belly. You know why it is you're doing what you're doing, and you may even know where it is that you want to go. Now, the big question is, how the hell are you gonna get there? And that is what we're gonna talk about today, is how to create ideal offers for your business that can take you where you wanna go. And if you haven't been following along, this video is just one in a series around how to create a one-page business plan for your small business that you will actually use. So if you haven't already downloaded that one-page business plan, go ahead, do that right now. The link to access it is in the notes below this video. And then we're gonna dive in to the 4 considerations to complete that ideal offers section of the plan. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kristen Constable, and I help values-driven entrepreneurs lead wildly successful, values-driven businesses while living a rich and fulfilling values-driven life. And that's what this YouTube channel is all about, weekly videos to help and support with just that. So if you're new or if you're not new, consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot being a brand new channel and gets my videos in front of more people, and you'll get notified every week when a new video comes online so you can watch it right away. All right, so let's dive into the 4 considerations when completing that ideal offers part of your plan. Okay, so consideration number 1, how are you going to make money? Now this seems obvious enough, but you would be surprised how many people, and you might even be in this camp, who aren't really sure. You know why it is you want to be doing what you're doing, you kind of have an idea for what you want to be doing, but it's not actually clear how this is going to be a business and how it's going to be making money. There is a difference between a business and a hobby, and you want to make sure that you are in the business camp, not the hobby camp, if you want this to be your main source of income. So let's just talk about how this can look. So I'm going to use an example from the coaching industry because that's the industry I'm in, and an industry that I help a lot of people with. So a lot of people come out of coaching school, or they've been working in their jobs, and then they decide that they want to transition into supporting people with their skill set or through it with a coaching capacity. So then we kind of get into, and I start talking about, well, how are you going to make money? So they're creating content, they're doing blogs, they're doing videos like this. All of those things are great, but they're not actually how you're going to make money, especially at the beginning. So when you're considering this question for yourself, you want to consider, what are the different ways in which you can create revenue? How are you going to exchange value, essentially? So your knowledge, your skills, that is all value that you can give to someone else, and then in exchange, they're going to give you money. So things like, if we're talking about the coaching industry, things like one-on-one coaching, group coaching, courses, consulting, those are all kind of buckets that you can consider when you're starting to think about this first consideration around, how am I gonna make money? So if you know the answer to that question, then you can move on to the second consideration, which we're gonna get into next. Okay, so the second consideration we want to talk about is, what are the different offers that you're going to have? So these are your revenue streams. So even if you just have one bucket that we talked about earlier around how you're going to make money, say, just to continue with the example around the coaching, is maybe I just want to do courses. That's all I want to do. Well, then the different offers are all of the different courses that I might be doing. Now, in creating these, you don't want to just pull them out of a hat. You want to really look at who is your ideal client. And that's why that work that we did earlier on in this one-page plan is so important. Who is your ideal client, and what are the different types of offers that are really going to resonate for them? This is going to be hugely important when creating your offers. The other things you want to consider are things like, what is the need or the problem that you're trying to solve? That is going to be hugely influential in the type of revenue streams and different offers that you offer. For example, if you are trying to solve the problem of people having access to you and your products and services without having to be in the same physical geography, some online options might be a good idea in terms of revenue streams. So you want to start looking at what are all the different ways in which you're going to be bringing money into the business and exchanging your knowledge and your skills and your value to your ideal customer or client. Okay, so consideration number 3 is so important if you want longevity in your business and you want to stay energized throughout the process. So there's things that drain all of us and there's things that give all of us energy, and those things are unique for each individual. So when you're creating your offers, you really want to get clear on what are your strengths and your gifts, the things that really energize you and you can do with ease really well, and what are the things that drain you. And you want to leverage your gifts and your skills to create your offers. So if we continue on with the example about the coaching industry and the coach that wants to create courses, if that coach wasn't really energized by being in front of a camera like this, and they didn't really want to get better at that skill, it wasn't something that energized them, I would recommend that they would look at how can they leverage some of their strengths to still do that thing to create courses, but where they didn't have to be in front of the camera. So maybe they decided that all of their courses were done through screen share or slides, and they were actually really good at creating beautifully put together, aesthetically pleasing slides, and they could do it in a way that would take participants from A to Z seamlessly. Great. So now they're working in their strengths and they'll be way more energized by the process as opposed to forcing themselves to be in front of a camera just because they think that that's exactly how that should be done. So that's your work here, is look at what are your gifts, what are your skills, and how can you really leverage those to create offers that highlight them and allow you to show up in your biggest, boldest, best way possible. The final consideration, number 4, pricing and positioning. So this is a really important piece, obviously, because this is going to help you create and get to the revenue targets that you want. And making money in your business is an important thing. Without it, you will die. So don't be scared around putting some numbers around how much you want to be making. Once you do this, once you have that target revenue, it's a lot easier to work back and to actually see a path around how you can get there. So let's just work through an example together, because I want to show you how many different ways there are to get to the same outcome. So let's just use an example of, say you wanted to make $1 million in your business next year. So if we're to continue on with that example around the coach with the course, if you were looking at how to price and position that, if you position that as a $200 course and you wanted to make $1 million, you would have to sell that course to 5,000 people. On the other end of the spectrum, if you price that course at $4,000, you would only have to sell it to 250 people. So when you look at it like that and see all of the numbers in between, it becomes a lot easier to see, well, how much do I need to be doing in terms of volume? And you can start to get a feel for what is the actual value of the thing that I am selling. Now, value is super tricky because value is kind of determined by the marketplace, supply and demand, but you want to have a good sense for, do you feel comfortable asking for the number that you're asking for? This is an intuitive type decision. You can also do some market research, go out there, see what other courses or products or programs or services are going for. But ultimately, you want to be able to back your number 100%. So you don't want to just put it at a $4,000 course because you only want to sell it to 250 people. Because if you don't believe wholeheartedly 100% that that course is worth $4,000, you will not be able to sell it to anyone. Trust me. So make sure that the number you land on really feels good for you, but it also truly represents the value of the thing that you're selling and that it aligns with what it is that you want to be making in your business. And this is why you have separate revenue streams as well. So you might be able to have different tiers within your offerings of whether it's a product or whether it's a service. And we see this all over the place, even with something like Netflix. They have their basic service, which I think is like $9.99, or their premium service, which is $13.99. So depending on what you're offering, you might be able to offer different tiers. So something to consider as you are doing pricing and positioning here. So a couple of things. One, do you feel good about your number? Does it represent truly the value in the marketplace and what you're offering? And two, can you back it 100%? And then 3, can you have different revenue streams that support different price points and different business models to kind of get to that final revenue number that you're looking for? Okay, so there you've got it. The 4 key considerations when creating your ideal offers for your business. And if you are a purpose-driven entrepreneur who has this purpose-driven business and you're out to leave a legacy and have an impact in the world, this work is so important. Take it from me, it's not enough just to have this big picture vision and this passion. You need to have a thriving business model that can create a thriving business in order to expand and to actually have the impact that you want to have. So dive in, do this work, do the work background, what it's going to take to create that thriving business, and you'll be serving so many more people and impacting on an even higher level. So thank you so much for being here, and if you haven't already, download that one-page business plan and get started on this work. You don't have to have it all figured out, you just need to take the next right step. And meet me back here next week for the final video in this series, which is around how to create goals for your business that you'll actually accomplish. So that piece is gonna tie this all together, and I'm super excited to share it with you then. All right, thanks for being here and see you soon.